Welcome back to FPL Spad, your best place to find FPL content for the 23-24 season. My name is Spad. Today I'm going to show you which players you should buy and which players you should completely avoid. We're only just one day away from the season starting, so if you're excited about this season starting, please like and subscribe to my channel and let me show you my tips and differentials for this coming game week. So first up, we have the keepers. From the keep list, we have Onana for Man United. Expect to get 4.2 points in his first game. I expect him to make good amount of points because United will keep a solid defense just like last year. De Gea kept 16 clean sheets, so he might keep about the same amount, but we just don't know yet. But he's a good keeper from what we've seen in the Champions League, so he's a keeper to keep. I reckon they'll keep good number of clean sheets, so he's one to have in your team. Next up, we have Edison. Man City will keep clean sheets because they're mostly such a great team and they've got easy sale fixtures. The only problem with him is he won't get that many bonus points or save points because most teams won't have that many shots against Man City. Then we have Martinez for Villa. Not the best sale fixtures to start. His predicted points are 3.5 for the first game. He's a keep long term because he'll make a lot of saves and get bonus points in that department. Next up, we have Steele. For Brighton, I expect him to be the first choice keeper for them. He's expected to make 4.5 points in his first game. It's a decent amount of points for his first games. He might get clean sheets, but you know he'll make some saves as well. And maybe get some bonus points like the end of last season he was getting. Another choice that we have is Johnson. Costs 4.5 million. Plays for Crystal Palace. From what it looks like from preseason, he's going to be Crystal Palace number 1 for 4.5 million. It's a great option. His predicted points are 4, which is a good amount for your first game. So he might be my actual first choice keeper, but I haven't finalized him yet. Another option is Flecken from Brentford. He's predicted 4 points as well. Raya's left, going to Arsenal. The transfer is more or less going to be done soon. So Flecken is going to be first choice keeper for them. And from recent news that we heard, Kane's been accepted for Bayern Munich, so he won't be playing the first game against Brentford for them. So there's a good chance he might actually get a clean sheet in the first game. So he's another great option to have. And finally, we have Matt Turner, who costs 4 million, 0 points in the predicted because they don't expect him to play. But he might be going to Nottingham Forest as their number 1. But for now, he's still an Arsenal player. But maybe after he gets his transfer, we can bring him in as a backup keeper for 4 million. So he's a great option to have. Now for the keepers that we have to avoid. Ramsdale and Raya. They're both going to be at Arsenal. Ramsdale will probably play the first game. So you can have him for the first game, but then you're just wasting a transfer out for next game because he might be dropped for Raya. We just don't know yet what Arteta's planning to do. So for now, I say avoid both those two players. The next one up, we have Pickford. Costs 4.5 million. A lot of people have chosen him. In my opinion, don't bother. Everton will be just as atrocious as last year. He won't get many clean sheets. He might make a few saves here and there. But most times, if he's letting a few goals in, the bonus points will go to the attacking team. Then we have Pope, for 5.5 million. Plays for Newcastle. They've got alright set of fixtures, but I just don't think they'll be as good as last year in defense. There'll be a bit more frailties in the team. I don't expect him to do that great. His predicted points are pretty high at 4.5, but football is all about unpredictability, so you just don't know what's going to happen. Next up, we have Leno for 4.5 million. His predicted points are 4. Fulham, they concede a lot of chances. They give a lot of attacks away. He might make saves, but I don't think he'll get that many clean sheets. So he's a void for me. And the next two up we have is Sanchez and Kepa, both at Chelsea. Sanchez just signed from them from Brighton. We just don't know which one is going to start. So again, avoid both of them too as well. And that's it for the keepers. So next up, we have the defenders. First, defenders to keep. First up, we have Espinilian. Cost 5 million. 50% have chosen him in the FPL managers. Most people have him in their team. His predicted points to start off is 4.8. Great option to have. He's a very attacking left back. Expect him to make a lot of points. Next up, we have Luke Shaw for United. 5.5 million. Bit more than the last player. But I think he's going to be worth it because he's a lot more attacking than Espinilian and proven over the Premier League over the last few seasons. His predicted points are 4.2. United will keep a few clean sheets, in my opinion, and he'll provide attacking options as well. Next up, we have Chilwell. You can have him or you can have James instead. But in my opinion, Chilwell is the better option to have because James can get injured whenever he wants because how he feels like his career. He's captain for them at the moment, so he might step up, might not get injured no more. But for now, Chilwell is the better option to have at 5.5 million. His predicted points are 3.4. It's low because they're playing Liverpool first game. So that's how it's going to be for him. The next two players, we have Arsenal players, Gabriel, Saliba, and Timber. I expect all three to play. Gabriel and Saliba are guaranteed centre-backs that will guarantee play every game. Timber, at the moment, I think we'll be playing left-back for them because in the last game in the Charity Shield, he played there and he was immense. So I expect him to be the same if he carries on playing in that side and them to get a lot more clean sheets than they did last season. Their predicted points are 4.6, 4.1, and 1 respectively because the AI does not know that Timber is going to play that many minutes. Next up, we have Botman, cheap 4.5 million Newcastle defender. He's nailed on to start nearly every game. They'll keep a few clean sheets here and there, and he might get odd header from corners sometimes. His predicted points are 4. Next up is the unknown Pau Torres, cost 4.5 million. Just signed for Villa this season. I expect him to do good. Apparently, he's a ball-playing defender, so he might get some bonus points. His predicted points are 2.4. That's the list for the keep players for defenders. Next up, we have the defenders to avoid. First up, Trippier, cost 6.5 million. His predicted points are 4.9. I wouldn't look that much into it because last season, I took him out in the last 15 games for Trent, and that's what won me my mini league, in my opinion. He didn't do that great at the end of last season, and I don't expect him to do the exact same this year. He's getting on the wrong side of 30 now. I don't expect him to get that many great attacking points. He might get a few clean sheets here and there. He did get bonus points last season in the start of the season because he's producing a clean sheets and attacking returns. But this season, I don't think he'll be the same. So in my opinion, you should avoid him completely. Next up is James. Like I said earlier about him, he can get injured whenever. So for me, I will just avoid saving your transfer for future because you don't want to make willy-nilly transfers for no reason because you only get 1 free transfer a week. His predicted points are 3.4 against Liverpool, so I'll avoid him completely. Next up, we have Zinchenko, left back for Arsenal. Didn't play in the Charity Shield match. From what I've seen in preseason, he hasn't played much, so I don't expect him to start because he might not be up to full fitness. His predicted points are 1.5 because the AI has predicted that he won't get many minutes, so I would avoid him completely. But he was good at the start of last season. He was going to be one of my main candidates, but if he gets no game time, then no point having him in your team, especially for 5 million. Next up, we have John Stones at 5.5 million. His predicted points are 4.4 because AI expects him to play. He might play the first game in midfield. In Charity Shield game, he played in defense. But we saw last season he moved up as playing an inverted role in CDM and dropping back sometimes even moving up forwards and getting goals and assists. But with another defender being signed by Man City, Guardiola, we just don't know what Pep will do with this formation and who gets rotated, who gets dropped, what new tactics he will employ this season. So in my opinion, just to save a free transfer, avoid getting him for now. Next up, we have Bell, because 4 million. At the start, when Francis got announced, the price got released, there was a lot of hype around this player because he was a starting 4 million centre back. But there are a lot more other better options than him to have instead. So, and I think over 20% have chosen him to avoid getting a price drop and losing money on him. Avoid him completely. His predicted points are 2.2. So I would avoid him. Mings is another one. Like I said earlier, Pau Torres is a ball-playing centre-back that they've bought. So I don't know about what formation Villa will play. At the moment, where it looks like they will be playing a 3-man defence at the back. So he will be playing. But I just don't expect him to get many attacking returns at all. He'll get a decent amount of points throughout the season, in my opinion. But let's just see how the new Villa look out this season first. So in my opinion, you should just avoid him completely at the moment. His predicted points are 2.6. So leave him be for now. The next two players are 4 million defenders each. One is Lamptey. I don't expect him to start all. He's just a backup. His predicted points are 0.8 by the AI. So I would avoid him completely. He's been chosen by quite a few players, FPL managers, to avoid getting a price drop. Avoid him. Next up, we have Baldock. He was a bit of keep and avoid because he's a right back. He cost 4 million. A lot of people have chosen him. His predicted points are 3.5. The only problem I have here is if he does not get points and he's at all and people take him out, he will get a quick price drop very fast. And that will not allow you to do easy transfers later on in the game weeks. So for that reason, I would say avoid because of the high percentage owned by players. That's it for the defenders. Now for the midfielders that you want to keep in your team. First up, we have 3 Arsenal players. Martinelli at 8.5 million, predicted points at 5.4. Saka at 8 million, predicted points at 5.9. Odegaard at 8.5, predicted points at 5.8. In my opinion, you have to have at least 1 or 2 of these players in your team to choose from. In my opinion, my main man is Martinelli. With Jesus out, Martinelli might get more attacking role in my opinion. Havertz played the last game in more attacking role, but in my opinion, he doesn't have the minerals to do that job like he showed at Chelsea. So why would he be doing it at Arsenal? So in my opinion, Martinelli should be playing up there higher or even Trossard. But in my opinion, Martinelli is the main man for them. Even though Saka will be taking penalties. So if I were out of the 3, I will keep Saka and Martinelli in my team. Next up, we have Rashford, cost 9 million, predicted points at 6.5. We have Bruno Fernandes at 8.5 million, predicted points at 6.4. Good. Both of them are good, great options. Bruno is most likely going to be on penalties, but Rashford is the most creative and attacking attribute that United have, who is more likely to get goals from open play and assist from open play and winning penalties. So in my opinion, he's a better option out of both of them if you were to choose, but either one is good depending on your budget. Next up, we have Luis Diaz at 7.5. From what I've seen in preseason, he's aggressive, look to take on players, look like the most attacking threat at Liverpool in preseason. Like he showed the season before he got injured, how good he was when he just came into a team and set the league on fire for his short period of time that he had. So he's a great option to have. His predicted points are 3.2, decent against away game against Chelsea. We just don't know if he's going to guarantee start, but I reckon he will. Next up, we have Phil Foden at the exact same price at 7.5 million. He's got good predicted points at 4.5 because Man City have got a good set of fixtures to come up with, so he will get game time. He might get rotated here and there, but I think he should be starting initially because it's between him and Grealish. And I haven't seen much of Grealish in pre-season, so I think Foden will start off the season initially before Grealish. Then we have the same Man City player, Bernardo Silva, at 6.5 million, which is a bargain. His predicted points are 2.9, because I don't think AI expects him to get much game time. But in my opinion, he will get game time because Mahrez is gone now, which was his main competition on the right-hand side. Depending on what formation Pep plays, he is going to start. From what we saw in the Charity Shield, the only problem that we can have is him being rotated with Junior Alvarez. But I expect him to be starting over him, depending on what formation Pep wants to play. I'm not guaranteed what he's going to play, but in my opinion, he played in the Charity Shield game. He's not looking like he's going to move at the moment. Pep has already said he's not going anywhere this season. They're going to keep him no matter what, so he will be staying. So it's a great option to have at 6.5 million for Man City midfielder. Next up, we have Ezra from Crystal Palace, cost 6.5 million as well. Got good predicted points at 4.8. Had a great last season, in my opinion. Near the end, when the change got new, when Roy Hodgson came back to management, was their star man. Will be taking their penalties. Is in most of the set pieces he takes them. So he will get a few bonus points and maybe some assists and goals as well. So he's a great option to have in your team. The next player that we have is an unknown, Diaby at Villa. Was just signed this season for he's cost 6.5 million in FPL. His predicted points are 3.1. Surprisingly, AI has predicted that, thinking he will get game time. For what I've seen in pre-season, he's going to be playing just off Watkins. So, as a second striker. So he's got a good chance to get a good amount of creative points from attack by getting assists and even getting goals. I don't think he's on penalties. Maybe he is. I'm not 100% sure about this because I'm not a Villa fan. But he will get assists and goals if he's playing a second striker to Watkins, who is a beast himself as it is. So that's it for the midfielders that you want to keep. Now for the midfielders that you want to avoid. First up is Salah, cost 12.5 million. He's got high predicted points as always because he's 5.9 predicted points against Chelsea. Somehow I thinks he will get a goal because he has got a goal in every single one of his first league games of the season. He might get it this season again, but from what I've seen in pre-season, he looks like more of an assister this season provider than a goal scorer from the formation that we've been playing so far in pre-season. So I expect him to get assists, but not many goals. But he'll be on penalties, so that is an option to have. But for 12.5 million, I just don't think it's worth the risk at the moment. Next up, we have De Bruyne at 10.5 million. His predicted points are 5.4. Didn't have the best season last year, in my opinion. At the end of the season, he fizzled out a bit. In my opinion, he only showed up for like 2 weeks during the end of the last season for the big games and putting big performances. But in the other games, I didn't see any performances at all. He was not making many points in FPL. I just don't think he's the same player. He's hitting the wrong side of 30 now. So it could be spelled the end of De Bruyne, but he's still quality on the ball. I just think off it, he's just not the same energy as age catches up with all players. Next up, we have Son for Tottenham. Cost 9 million, predicted points at 4.7. I think this is a bit off because AI does not know Kane is leaving. So that will affect the points predicted for Son because he's going to be providing less assists for the amazing passes he will play for Kane because Kane won't be there to finish it off. So he is a avoid, in my opinion. Same as Maddison for 7 million. His predicted points are 4.7. In my opinion, you should avoid him as well until you see how they play. Because without Kane, who's got 30 goals for them last season, who's going to get their goals? Richarlison, he only got 1 goal last season for them in the Premier League. So what assists are they going to get? They'll have to score the goals themselves. And Son didn't have as much as best season last season as well. That's why he dropped in price by 3 million. So I say avoid him for now. Unless you're a real big gambler, then yeah, go for him. Or if you're a Spurs fan. But next up, we have McAllister for Liverpool. 6 million, predicted points at 3.6. Probably one of the main nailed-on starters in midfield for Liverpool in this team. But from what I've seen in pre-season, he's played 2 different positions. He's played as a holding midfielder with Trent playing as the inverted right back. In the last game, he played the number 6 role. The thing we have a problem is Liverpool have defensive problems. So in my opinion, they will drop him back until they sign a new CDM. For now, they haven't signed a new CDM. They have put in bids, but for now, they haven't. So there's no point risking him thinking he's going to play a more attacking role in this Liverpool team, especially against the first game against Chelsea, where they are a good team as well. So in my opinion, you should avoid him for now. Maybe later, depending on what formation they start playing. He won't be on pens, because Salah will be on pens as well. So he won't get as many points as he did last season, in my opinion. Next up, we have Grealish. Haven't seen much of him in pre-season. He cost 7.5 million. His predicted points are 4.1, because AI probably predicts him to play. But he hasn't played in pre-season. Didn't play in the Charity Shield game. So I don't expect him to start. Maybe he starts. I don't know with Pep. You can never guess Pep. So, but in my opinion, you should avoid him for now. Unless he gets into the team, then he won't get out of the team because he plays good when he needs to. Next up, we have Havertz for Arsenal, who they just signed this season. Baffles me why they signed him. Cost 7.5 million. His predicted points are 3.9. He can't finish at all. So just leave him out of your team. Do I need to say more? Let's move on to the next. Almond. Cost 6.5 million. Had a great season last year at the start. They fizzled out after February. I don't expect him to carry on like he did at the start of last season. So just avoid him. His predicted points are 4. Just straight out avoid. Next up, we have Mitoma, a controversial one in my opinion for avoids, because most people do have him in their teams. His predicted points are 5.3 or 6.5 million. Reason why he's a void, because in my opinion, March is the better player if you were going to pick a Brighton player. So I will pick March instead. Just like the next person I'm about to say, in CCO, 5.5 million, 2.7 predicted points. You just don't know with Brighton what formation they're going to play. With so many players already left, with Casado wanting to leave Brighton, not saying he's not going to play no games, no training. You just don't know what type of formation they'll play. So for me, just stay away from the CCO as well, because they've brought in João Pedro, who's listed as a forward, who's more likely to play than Encicio. So leave him out. And that's it for the midfielders, to avoid. Now we have the forwards that you want to keep in your team. First up, no surprise, Haaland. 14 million. His predicted points are 1.8.2. And you can easily get that. This is Haaland. So he's a must-have in your team. Don't even think about not having him in your team. He has to be in your team. Next up, we have Watkins, 8 million. His predicted points are 4.5. I expect him to do good. In my opinion, I think he's the next England international that will live up with Kane's hype. So he's good to have in your team. Because alright, self fixtures, but good to have in your team. Next up, we have Wilson. Costs 8 million. His predicted points are 3.9. He's a great player. Gets goals nearly every other game. Has a great record whenever he plays. Will get you the points if he's starting. And when he starts, he will always play ST. Will make Isak play on the left. Unless Eddie Howe decides to change things around, I expect him to be playing ST for Newcastle and getting majority of the goals for them and be taking their pen if he's on the pitch. Like he showed at the end of last season when people were choosing between Wilson and Isak. Wilson was the one that made the points. Next up, we have Luis Diaz. Not Luis Diaz. Darwin Núñez. He cost 7.5 million, 3.9 predicted points. Maybe starting, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure about him. But I would start him personally with Diaz and Salah as the front three. But I am not Klopp, so it's not up to me. So, in my opinion, I will keep him because he has been getting goals in pre-season. It's just about how Klopp wants to play and what formation he's settled on. And I don't think he's settled on a formation completely yet. So we just don't know how he expects to play against Chelsea. But in my opinion, he's a great pick who will improve compared to last season. So he's a keep, but maybe avoid, depending on who you are. Next up, we have Julian Alvarez for Man City, cost 6.5 million. His predicted points are 2.3. I don't expect him to play many games or get many minutes. I think he will with Gundogan leaving and them not getting another midfielder replacement yet. So from the way they're set up in the Charity Show game, it's looking like he will start in game time. So he's a good option to have as maybe a third striker or maybe as a second if he spent too much money in other parts of your team. Next player we have is Risa for Brentford. Expect to be playing in Tony's position from last year as ST. He's an okay player. I don't think he's going to be on pens. I think Mbubu's going to be on pens instead for them. But because he's playing the ST position, he is likely to get the chances created by the rest of the team to get the goals. So he's a good option to have. He costs 4.2 million. In the end, it's up to you guys if you want to pick him. Next up, we have Vinicius for Fulham. Costs 5 million. With Metro having a hissy fit over wanting to leave to go to Saudi Arabia, I think he'll be getting more game time. His predicted points are 1.8 because AI doesn't think he's going to get game time, but he is going to get game time. So that should be a lot higher than it is. So he's a good option to have as a third striker. Only 0.5 more than the cheapest ones. As my next one, Mbubu, who has been picked by a hell of a lot of people, his predicted points are 1.8 because people think that he will be starting for West Ham. We're not 100% sure he will be starting, but people have assumed he is. And a lot of people have chosen him. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It depends if you want to believe in what they're saying. If he's starting, then it's a very good player to have as a bench option because his price will increase. But if he's not starting, you'll see his price drop very fast because a lot of FPL managers will be getting rid of him very quick, and you have to keep up with that. So that'll be done for the attack strikers to keep. Now for the forwards that you want to avoid. First up, Kane, 12.5 million, predicted points at 6.1. Reason why I say avoid for him, he's had a transfer saga this whole summer, and we just got news that Tottenham have accepted the bid for Kane. He still has the final choice on it, but if that's the case, his head won't be in the right place. If he's going or not going, he don't expect him to be playing their first game against Brentford. So it is a avoid for me. Next up, we have Isak from Newcastle, plays on the left wing, had a decent last season for his first Premier League season, cost 7.5 million, got predicted points of 4.3, okay amount, don't have the greater fixtures. They play Liverpool and Man City in the first 3 games. So in my opinion, avoid him. He plays on the left-hand side of them, so just avoid for now. Maybe bring him back later afterwards, but for now, he's an avoid. Next up, we have Jackson for Chelsea. Cost 7 million, probably will be playing as an ST. Predicted points of 4.8. Decent amount. First game against Liverpool, not an easy game, especially for your first Premier League game ever. And Chelsea's new look team, literally the whole team being changed. So you just don't know how they will perform or play, or will they be any good. Preseason, you can't judge everything on preseason. So for me, avoid. Maybe later on, bring him in because he's only 7 million, very cheap. So for now, avoid. Next up, we have Mitro for Fulham, cost 7.5 million, predicted points of 2.6. I don't expect him to play because he's been having a hissy fit because he wants to move to Saudi Arabia. So he will be dropped and not playing. So just avoid him completely. I've seen people choosing him in their teams at the moment. I just don't understand those people. Next up, we have Pedro for Brighton. They've just signed him this season. He cost 5.5 million. Predicted points at 3.9. The only problem with that I have with him is the rotation risk. Because we just don't know how Brighton will line up this season yet. It's another Brighton player I have on the list, Ferguson, at 6 million as well. Predicted points at 3.7. Another striker. We have Welbeck as well. So many strikers they have. We just don't know who will be starting. So in my opinion, should be avoiding these 2 players for now. Next up, we have Solanke. A bit of a hard one, but in my opinion, avoid. Because I haven't seen Bournemouth make any new signings. They got a new manager in. I haven't heard much about him. Haven't seen them play, how their playing style is. So I would avoid him. He's a very good English player, capable of getting goals. At 6.5 million, it's a decent price. Got a decent amount of points last season. But I just say avoid because we just don't know how will they be playing this season. And finally, we have Archer, 4.5 million bench player, 0 predicted points. Don't expect him to get no game time. The reason why I tell you to avoid him is because a lot of people have probably chosen him, and then when they transfer him out, you lose out on money that you need for other transfers. So just avoid him. Go there and pick another cheap 4.5 million attacker that is highly less percentage owned as possible. So you do not lose out on your price drops and save your money for other transfers. And that is it for the rest of the forwards that you don't want in your team. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting with the information I provided you. Leave a comment on the video, please, if you can. I might have mispronounced some player names, but I hope you understood who I meant. I'll be doing a deadline stream 1 hour before deadline tomorrow. Hope you tune in to watch it. Thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more FPL content in the future. See ya!